We have some quick LOTRO news today with update 36.1 coming July 12th, the day of this video, and a few other interesting things to cover. So to get started here with the patch notes for the update, there's honestly not all that much here. There is the little teaser of the Treasure Bougon event coming back, but it's not actually coming back right now at least. And we do have a couple bug fixes / quality of life type things with items here. In particular with the wardrobe though, you might be able to search more easily with low level hammers, axes, daggers, and clubs. And then the big thing of course with this patch is going to be new cosmetics, which you can barter for a lot of them with Figments of Splendor from Filbert Fig. And this includes this list here, but they actually have a whole post dedicated to the cosmetics. So from this you can get the Horse Archer set, which includes the Horse Archer's war steed as well as the outfit. So there is actually a Horse Archer steed as well, but something you might notice that you can actually see it in game with the collections panel before this patch, but it doesn't actually match the outfit. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that, or maybe when the update actually comes out, they will have fixed this appearance, but that's what it looks like right now, according to the collections panel. Also in these cosmetics is going to include a couple cosmetics pets, including this little spotted jerboa here. And finally, there is also the buff donkey. Now back to their post, there is going to be some new housing items with this as well, including the Potted Palm Jerboa house, which looks like this little tiny, it looks like a hobbit house actually, that's kind of funny. And then Fox and Fiddle in Signpost, as well as Vase of White Clover and Vase of Cook's Comb. You can also see these here. So something you might notice throughout this is that their advertisements are really for the loot boxes, but as usual, I ignore those. That said, until this actually comes to game, not 100% sure what will be available for Figments, but for the regular cosmetics, we can actually get a rough idea based on just visiting one of the rotating vendors right now and just seeing the cost of different cosmetic pieces here. So for example, with the recent Karn Doom set that came out, it can get quite a bit to get every single piece. Now you might be wondering with Filbert Fig, that is actually the vendor these will be available from, and right now we have Myrtle Mint. Well, they don't confirm this anywhere else, but in the schedule of public events, they do have Filbert Fig, here he is, slotted in for July 12th, which would be the day of the patch, so presumably that is when he will actually come and rotate Myrtle Mint out. So there's not really much heads up just when I can get this video prepared that Myrtle Mint is going away, but that does appear to be the case. Also, just looking at the public events list, I'm reminded of the Tale of the Shipwrecked Mariner, which I personally have never played with, but if you all remember the name of the upcoming class, it is called Mariner. I wonder if there's going to be any special interactions with the Mariner class in that event. And with that date, I wonder if we'd even have the Mariner in beta by then. Or of course, alphas and LOTRO aren't public. Hopefully it's already an alpha at this point, to be honest. Anyway, what I was really looking for was the Treasure Bougon event, and I do not actually see on this event list when it is coming back, so don't know on that yet. Otherwise, for the patch with cosmetics specifically here, some of the older cosmetic and steeds, as they usually are going to be moved off Filbert Fig as they're adding new cosmetics to them, and now those will be available from the curator, which is more rarely around. There's also a whole bunch of bug fixes and different changes here across the landscape, and some other things. I will point out, at least with the LOTRO store, if you bought one of the recent legendary item bundles, it looks like you used to be able to open those with the novice trait, which could have actually caused items to be lost. So hopefully that didn't happen to you. I assume that you can contact support if you did have an issue with that, with what they're talking about in the patch notes here, but did want to point that out. And finally, for PvMP, they also corrected a couple cosmetic appearances, specifically with the Orc Defiler. But that is not all we have today. I do want to give an update from Orion here, actually about the crafting revamp. And I know a lot of people can be concerned about titles as we're getting a change to the vocation system, but it looks like they are planning to maintain the existing vocation titles and perhaps actually incorporating new vocation titles. So you could have something like Gatherer of Many Things, I Make Things, probably a little bit more specific than that, but even those actually sound like they could be kind of fun. I don't know, sometimes very generic random titles like that are actually fun to me. But the other big thing here is actually going to be some updates to the Beorning revamp plan. Now, one thing that I really praised on the Beorning revamp was the change to claw swipe being generally available to the class and not tied to the blue line. Well, something that I kind of glossed over, probably because I was just so excited about that note, I didn't realize they actually noted it at a 12-second cooldown. So I absolutely love to see it being kept at 3 seconds and still available on all lines. I still think it could be definitely a good idea to split the effects for each trait line, where Claw Swipe maybe has a damage debuff as it does now for the blue line, and then the bleed for the red line, and maybe some other debuff or just something with the yellow line. It doesn't have to be a heal, but some other things is I know a lot of people were not too happy with a lot of the healing becoming fellowship specific instead of raid wide. So some of their raid-wide healing will stay, it looks like, with the current plan, in particular with Relentless Maul, but it will cost increased Wrath. And then Rejuvenating Bellow, that will be Fellowship targetable, so you can actually use that on a different Fellowship in the raid. So it's a little bit of a compromise from their original plans and what we currently have now with the yellow Beorning. Also, for the blue line Beorning, they're actually adding, I forget exactly all the plans they had for them at this point, but they're adding 2 more actually Wrath Spender cooldowns. I love Wrath Spenders. I'm a little bit hesitant actually on liking long cooldowns. I feel like the limiting factor should actually be Wrath and not necessarily the cooldown of abilities. That's especially true with the red line. I know tanking can perhaps necessitate some differences from that ideal perception that I have right now, but we do have a couple of those cooldowns here, which do sound fun. But this is basically a short duration damage reduction, and then Nature's Fury is 100% evade chance for, it looks like it will be a 15-second duration, so you can completely evade a lot of normal attacks that don't actually bypass BPE with that. And a kind of interesting quality of life change that they really want you to stay in bear form basically the entire time in blue line is making Hearten be able to be used actually in bear form and not just man form. Honestly, as a Beorning tank, I personally wouldn't mind sometimes transferring to man form to use something like Hearten, for example, but I think it's hard to actually make it work where bear form actually feels a lot more powerful tanking than man form, because once you switch to man form, you could potentially just cause your character to die because of lost defenses. So perhaps this consistency would actually just be a better thing overall. And then I think the final thing here that I do want to specifically cover is Wanderlust. I know a couple people were perhaps complaining about that being a trait in the yellow line, so it actually will not be a trait and it's just going to have a small buff in movement speed. And then they're of course looking at some more quality of life changes. I was also kind of surprised to see so many people complain about Maul. Maybe not completely surprised, but basically Maul's ability that locks you into channeling like this. I actually like that sort of pros and cons of it. It's a very strong ability, but it has the downside that you're locked in place and only have the arc in front of you. Perhaps a sort of balance change without entirely removing the channel, and the big effect of Maul is to be able to let you move during it, but that could also, I see, causing some issues. So I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. If you all have any preferences or thoughts on Maul, please do let me know, because honestly, I'm completely fine with it being a channel. Again, it's a powerful ability, but it does have that drawback to sort of balance it. I think one of the bigger things for Redline is to not make the damage largely dependent on Maul as it is right now, though. The other thing that I didn't see mentioned there was Wrathful, and the way they described it in the initial post, one, didn't really make much sense and really tied you, depending how you actually even interpret it, to a very specific window of 75 to 79 Wrath, or 75 to 80 Wrath, or some way some people are interpreting it was just 75 to 100 Wrath. So I think some clarity on how they actually want to change Wrathful would be very helpful going into the future. Of course, once we get beta, we will actually see how it is in their initial implementation. But I think for me personally, that was one of the bigger things that I feel like was actually maybe missing, or at least that I would have hoped would be addressed, really. But again, I do want to highlight that this post, the reason I give it the love reaction, that's my second reaction I've ever given on the LOTRO forum, so it's quite rare to get that from me. But I really did appreciate just seeing this and them just saying that they love feedback, always happy to hear feedback, and good to know things are in flux. So even with update 37 coming somewhat soon, they are still in the phase where they're able to make perhaps some more significant changes to their initial plans. Also, speaking of update 37, I forgot the second point of this initial post is that we should start to have some more information about update 37 actually this month. Orion here is specifically referring to the crafting revamp, but they're hoping to have a dev diary on that, as well as joining the Court of the Rings dev stream sometime this month. And this actually gets to where we have a little channel update here, because for basically the second half of this month, I am going to be away and unable to make videos. It's sort of unfortunate timing as far as that goes, with basically 2 back-to-back trips for two totally different reasons, basically meaning that I won't be able to actually work on videos or cover the LOTRO news during that time. But the good news is, while I won't have live streams, I will have videos during that time. And here actually is a sneak peek of some upcoming projects. Just don't tell anyone, please. But more seriously, to keep the value for channel members, if you are a member and supporting the content, you will get early access to a lot of these videos. So for example, once the Has LOTRO Gotten Worse video here goes up, channel members will already have access to what is essentially the second part on why I still play LOTRO. Those are two very exciting videos, is why I point them out specifically. They both have a little bit of a different style than I usually have, so I'm really excited to see what people think of them. Also, this one's an actual secret project that y'all cannot know about until it's uploaded. Anyway, that's enough messing around, and I should be back in early August. And again, just as a reminder, main thing with update 36.1 is new cosmetics for Figment's Splendor. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please consider liking and subscribing for more, and thanks for watching, everyone.